Alright guys, so I know in the last video where I crashed the drone, we sort of started getting into a new jet ski that we had recently got, and I'm sure you guys were wanting to actually see what that was. And like I said, we kind of started to get into it, but didn't really get to give you guys the full rundown because things just kind of went south on that entire day of filming. So today we'll go ahead and run you through that and show you guys what we got. All right, so as you guys can see, obviously we did end up getting another Wave Runner. It's identical to the first yellow one that I had. It's a GP 760, same year, 97, everything. So basically what happened, the blue Sea-Doo was, it was okay for what it was, but I never could get the thing running right. I was sick of spending time on it. It started developing oil leaks out of the tank, and it was just becoming an endless nightmare. So I finally decided to call it quits. Ended up selling that one. This one ended up popping up on Facebook Marketplace, and my fiance had been wanting to get her own jet ski for quite a while. And I was like, well, I know this other one has been solid, so I imagine this one will probably be solid too if we can get it for a decent price. They wanted I think a little over $2,000 for it. And I had paid $1,000 for this one plus the single place trailer I had at the time. So I was like, I'm not giving you $2,000 for it, but I'll give you $1,000 because it did have a little bit of hull damage up here at the front too. At least it's not on the bottom, but you can see right here, they've done some really horrible patchwork. So that's gonna need fixed, and then also back there. But at least it's all on the top of the hull and there's no damage on the underside, which is nice. So I think that'll all be fairly easily fixable. But anyway, we made the offer and she refused it and ended up waiting about a month, and then she finally hit us up. It was like late September, so getting close to winter time, the jet skis are useless, and she wanted it out of her yard. She's like, if you still want to do $1,000, you can come take it, which, like I said, I got a screaming deal on this one when I initially picked it up for $1,000 with the trailer. So I was like, oh, well, whatever, we'll go ahead and do this one. So we went up, tried it out. Nothing sounded wrong with the motor at all. Obviously, we couldn't run it. So I went ahead and picked it up and brought it back. It sat all winter. Didn't really have time to do anything with it. Kind of forgot about them, honestly, which was a time when probably should have been working on them, but oh well. So now when we were doing the video the other day, it was the first time it had been on the water. Fired it up the day before, put a new battery in it because the one that was in it was smoked. And it fired right up, ran perfectly smooth, like it was shocking. It fired up better than this one, which I always have to start with starting fluid, it seems like. So I was really impressed with that, but fired right up. When we got it out on the lake, it fired up, and then it did not want to stay idling. And finally, after fighting with it for quite a while, I was able to get it kind of revved up and get it where it would actually move around. But then as soon as you'd let off and just try to putt around, it would die again. So my thinking is that there's something wrong with the carb, because we did end up running it for probably a couple hours and it never seemed to clean up. So I think that it's got some, probably just, could be bad fuel too. My plan is to drain all of the fuel out and then just completely go through the carbs. These do have dual carbs, so I got a dual carb repair kit, and we're just gonna go ahead and completely rebuild it and see what that does. It also does have an issue, which I mean, it is an issue, but at least to this one, the gauges actually function, unlike my jet ski. But we're having an issue with it constantly saying low fuel, even though the thing was completely topped off. So from what I've looked at online, the floats and the little sending tube in the tank, those can, there's like a couple balls in there, I believe, that float up and give your fuel level reading, but those apparently can become cracked over time and let fuel into them, and then your readings go bad and it just constantly says low fuel. I don't think that's why I was having all the issues though, because the other big problem I was having is even when I would go like to do, you guys probably saw, if you've watched any of my previous videos with this jet ski, where I'll be like going along, let off the throttle, turn, and just like immediately stomp it into a complete 180. I was trying doing that with this one and it would die as soon as I would do that. Like it was, some reason it was like getting starved of fuel as soon as it went to take a hard corner or something. So it's like it's not getting enough fuel or something. So I'm gonna go through everything, the fuel filters, everything. There's gotta be something restricting fuel flow as far as what I can tell anyway. So that's what we got going for it for now. Obviously you guys can see this has the old factory traction mats, which I am not a fan of. These are looking pretty ratty, chewed up. So I ended up getting another set that are exactly the same as the ones I put on my ski. And yeah, these are pretty dirty. I never got them cleaned up after we went out the other day, but we'll get that done today. So we're gonna do that. This seat cover is also pretty beat. It's got a hole in it. Mine obviously isn't the cleanest either, but at least doesn't have any holes in it. So I did end up getting a replacement factory, or not factory, but a new seat cover that's super nice. It's gonna have yellow and black. So we're gonna do that on this one. We're not gonna do that on this video because it hasn't shown up yet, and it's gonna be a whole video in itself pretty much with pulling all the staples out and redoing that seat cover. So you guys will wanna stick around for that. That should be coming in the next week. As well as once I get all this one dialed in, we're gonna be out on the lake again later this week too, with the new GoPro, with the drone. So you guys will wanna stick around for that. For now though, we're gonna go ahead and jump in to pulling out the carburetors and just kind of seeing what we can see on those as far as any obvious contaminants and obvious restrictions of our fuel flow. So let's go ahead and get to that. All right, so just got the carbs out. I'm actually pretty impressed with these. It only took about probably 20 minutes to get them both out, which is nice because most stuff I work on, it usually takes a lot of fighting with the throttle cables and everything to get them out, but these came out pretty easily. I will say, just first impressions, the gaskets on the top of here were a little torn, so we're definitely probably getting some leaks in there, I would imagine. And then also, this is just a pretty dirty carburetor for being on a watercraft that isn't typically exposed to dirt. So I'm kind of interested to see what it's gonna look like once we actually get this thing open. All right, so I got these diaphragm covers off. The diaphragms themselves seem definitely a little old, like they're not very pliable anymore. And just looking in here where the floats sit, there's definitely some debris in there. So I'm gonna get those pulled out and definitely get this stuff cleaned up. So I just got off the other side of the carb housing, and I'm definitely not liking what I'm seeing, or I guess you could say I am liking what I'm seeing, depending on how you want to look at it. But these little fuel filters in here, there is, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is definitely quite a bit of debris in there, and it's in both sides. So something just that small could definitely be causing us some issues. So I'm hoping that's our main issue. Also, these here, there's quite a bit of debris in those. So I'm hoping once we get everything cleaned up, this thing is gonna run a little better. So here's the carb rebuild kits. Basically, they've got everything in them, I think, other than the floats, which I thought was kind of weird. Most carb rebuild kits for everything else I've gotten, I've always had the floats, but the good thing is the floats looked pretty good here, and the whole reason I didn't order some separately is because it wasn't behaving like it needed floats. I wasn't having any issues with the carbs flooding or anything like that, so I think we're good there. But it does come with the new diaphragms, all the seals, gaskets, most importantly, the fuel filters, it looks like is going to be, since those look the most messed up on here. But I think we'll just go ahead and kind of spray this out and then go ahead and start putting everything back together. So we're still making progress. I don't want to bore you guys too much with putting putting all these parts back in, but I figured I'd show you some of the more interesting pieces. So this diaphragm here, this is the old one, and you can see how like deformed and pretty much just really crunchy that it is compared to this new one that's like super pliable and flexible. So that could be a big part of our issue too. There's any number of combinations of things that I've found, but I'm thinking between just old worn out parts and kind of dirty conditions is probably what we've been running into issues with. The other big comparison for you guys is you can see that brand new filter there on the left, and then just how yellowed this one on the right is, the old one, and how full of debris it is. So that's just another obvious failed part in these carbs. Something else, just for any of you guys that may be doing stuff like this on your own. So the gasket that I had that went here on the top that was all destroyed, they don't include one of those in the rebuild kit. So I just took some of this Felpro gasket material you can get at any parts store. Get a roll of that. That's helped me out quite a few times. And then I just took this piece here that goes over the top of this and just kind of traced around there and built my own gasket. This gasket material is actually even good for fuel contact. So if I were to make a fuel bowl gasket or something, but this will especially be fine because it's not even going to see any contact with any fuel. So it'll be fine for sure. All right, so I got the carburetor all bolted back in. Everything's all connected, as cleaned up as I can get it. Being as it's something that I have, I'm not 100% confident that this will fix the issue because it never seems to work that easy for me. But I am happy that I did find several definite issues going through that carburetor, so I know that it at least had to be somewhat contributing to the issue. So it's got to run better than it had before. I just don't see any way that it can't. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the traction mats. These are a huge pain in the butt based off of how that one went. Just getting all of this material, this foam stuff off of here proved to be a real chore last time, and it was not a quick feat. So we're going to get all this stuff up as best as we can and then get ready to put the new stuff on. All right, guys, so it's been about probably 4 hours total now that I have into getting the old traction mats off of this jet ski. Spent a couple hours yesterday on it, then had to take off, and then spent a couple more hours this morning pulling off the remainder of the traction mats. These ones here in the front were way easier. They weren't the thick foam padding. It was just some really thin, kind of like almost sandpapery type material. And so that came off pretty easy with just a heat gun. And then after that, had to use acetone, get the rest of the sticky residue off, and just get everything cleaned up. As you can see, this is not adhesive, that's just some damage. I don't know if they had done something to this before or whatnot, but there's a lot of scratches and stuff underneath there. It's not completely perfect, but it'll absolutely work. You guys really probably don't even have to go as in depth as I did. I just wanted to really ensure a good stick to it. So after went through it with the acetone, then also wiped down it with some isopropyl alcohol, something to just remove anything that will inhibit adhesion of the new traction mats. So now that we've got all that done, pretty much ready to install, so we'll go ahead and get to it. And just like that, the new traction mats are on, guys. So believe it or not, something that small makes a huge difference when riding these things. It really sucks when you're using even just the brand new factory traction mats, and then you go to make a sharp turn or something and your feet just can't grab into the jet ski and you go flying off. So this is gonna help a lot. I do still have to cut out a hole here for this grommet that's gonna go on. You can see here, I got one on either side, and that's where the water shoots up out of there, so I'll have to cut that one out as well. But other than that, we're pretty much done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys are trying to do this yourself, I definitely recommend using a heat gun. It makes things a lot easier. That's something I did not use when I did my jet ski last summer, and it took probably twice as long doing that one as it did with this one. You don't want to sit there obviously for too long with the heat gun on the same spot or on the fiberglass hull, but just enough to kind of get that glue loosened up a little bit is going to help you out a lot. So that's all I got for you for this one, guys. The next video will probably be out testing these jet skis. We're going to get them out on the lake later this week. I'm not sure when that video will be uploaded, but stay tuned for that. It's definitely going to be a good one with all the new cameras and everything we got. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you later.